Hi everybody, Jill here. Welcome. Doing an update. Gonna let you know how I did this last week. That's my second full week on the 5.0 milliliter dose or 50 units of tirzepatide. Okay, in case you don't know, tirzepatide is the compounded version of the name brand ZEPBOUND, and today we are going to talk a little bit about what I've learned. I felt Italian there for a bit. What I learned about the whole thing on how the FDA has declared ZEPBOUND is no longer on that drug shortage list. So that means compounding pharmacies by law are not allowed anymore to make compounded versions. So we will talk about that. I've been keeping a very close eye on this back even when I was thinking about this in November, December, because many of you have been asking about this and what I'm going to do and all of that. I thought I would address that in this one. I wrote down the numbers again. We're going to compare, if I've lost weight this week and all of that. But I even went one step further and I even wrote down some of those sort of metabolic numbers that my scale tells me going back to December 25th versus what those look like, which really are kind of more important or as important markers, sometimes more important than even what, like how much you weigh with that number. That seems to be the one that we all zone in on, which is great. And we want to see that number go down. So I have numbers written down here. We're going to look back and see how I'm doing with some other metabolic numbers as well. I have to say that this last week was a little interesting because, I don't know, it was my second dose of that 5 milligram since, going up from the intro your body into this whole tirzepatide experience of the 2.5. And I was just wondering how it was going to go. And I was hoping that the transition, was going to be as smooth as it was when I just went up and doubled that dose. And it was. I haven't had any sort of side effects other than, man, it really, this dose just cuts my appetite. Especially now that I've done 2 full weeks, those first 3 days or so, it is really hard to eat. Yeah, I really, really had a hard time. I had to force myself. I was only able to eat a little more than quarter of my dinner, how I do the tovala. And maybe closer to half of that. And I kept the other half for the next day for lunch. Probably around, I don't know, I feel like that was a full, definitely 3, maybe 4 days. And then the 5th, 6th, and 7th day, maybe even some of that 4th day, my appetite was coming back to more of a normal, healthy place. Nothing like, still really no food noise to speak of, just was able to eat better. And so the first few days of my week, if I were just counting the calories, looked much different than the last few days, where I'm definitely able to get over 1,000 calories. One day I even did like 1,400, which is still a calorie deficit, but I have my little app, which is the MyNet Diary, set. I kind of play with it actually to see, but I have it set for losing about 1.5 pounds a week. And so it has set my calories to around 1,200 and something. If I were to slow that down to like even 1 pound a week, it will up, of course, the calories for that. So there was one day where I was like at 1,400, but man, that's okay. I kind of, in my mind, I think about the whole week, really, and not just daily. But so if I have a day where I hardly ate anything because my appetite wasn't there, and then I had a day where I was, eating more, that's okay. I feel like our bodies are more on, not just 24-hour increments, but it's more on the big picture. Good. So you guys, I really want to let you know, okay, and to reiterate, I should say, that I am not just doing tirzepatide and just eating whatever I want. No, as a matter of fact, you won't have a lot of success doing that over the long run. So I have drastically changed what I put in my mouth, no matter if I'm not able to eat much or I'm able to eat a good amount. I have changed so much of my diet. Okay, I don't eat any junk food. I really stay away from, I'm quite low carb, but I do have days when I'm not, because maybe my Tovala meal will have brown rice or even couscous, which I've had once, because that's really a pasta, and I don't do well with pasta. It doesn't make me feel well. Plus, I just like to stay away from it because it is just a lot of carbs and it's a grain. And I have found that I have to be, if I really want to cut down the inflammation, which is really the big picture for me, I have to watch grains, all the grains. So that is something that I really have to be careful of. Grains affect me more than even potatoes, just like your plain like white potato, if you're going to eat that. My body doesn't like grains more than anything. Even dairy, it's the grains for me. And that's through years of trying different things, you know, doing paleo for a couple of years and then doing clean keto for 3 years and just, you know, really dialing it in and almost an elimination diet and living there for a while and then slowly adding something and to see where. So that's what I have learned about myself, is that grains are huge inhibitors when it comes to how my body works, and it raises the inflammation, bloating, just all of that. So I'm not on anywhere near a low carb diet like I was when I was doing keto, which I would only allow, I only did total carbs. I think it's really scary for me to count and do that whole net carbs thing. I never did that. So I always tried to keep myself between 25 and 50 total carbs in a day when I was on keto. But now it's you know, I try to do under 100 because that's a lot. So I shoot for really 75 and under. Sometimes I hit more 85 and getting closer to the 100 mark. That day when I had 1,400 and something calories, I do think I was over 100 on that, because that happened to be the meal that was the couscous one. And the carb intake for that was just, for that one meal was quite a bit. But anyway, because I know I am not in ketosis, because when you are, you burn ketones instead of carbs for energy, which burns fat. Ketones the energy comes from fat, whether it's fat from your diet or fat from your body. Well, I'm not that. I'm not doing that right now. My carbs aren't low enough, and I know that isn't how I'm getting my energy. So I am getting my energy from carbohydrates. I am very carb intolerant, however, so there is a very real issue with me and getting my energy from carbs, especially going so long with not doing that, that's where I can stall. I have to be really careful with the amount of carbs I have through my week, because my body just is like, nope, no, we are not going to do that. So I still have to be very careful. So there are exceptions in certain days, but for the most part, I am also eating lower carbs. That's with you guys. I'm going to go ahead and give you my numbers. Okay, so on February 2nd, which was last Sunday, I came in and weighed at 167.5. Now, it was funny because I was looking on my stats, and on the 1st of February, which was Saturday, I was 168 point something. But we're taking what that Sunday was, which was 167.5. And this morning I weighed in at 167.7. So I predicted this. I really didn't think I was going to be losing anything or very, very little since that week before I lost 4 pounds. And so if I were to look at my total, I'm not sure about this number because I took this number off of my Shotzi app, which should be accurate actually. It says I'm down 13.4 pounds. My BMI is 30.7, which is still very high. My weekly average is 2.3 pounds. So that's great. Okay, so the numbers that I grabbed were from today. So all of the numbers on my scale, I have a smart scale. I'll put the one that I have down below. I really like it. I've had another smart scale prior, but it was quite old and they have gotten so much better now. So I grabbed sort of the numbers that I really focus on. I went back to December 25th. So I have weighed more than this, but I didn't want to go too far back. I wanted to stick to kind of late December. So I weighed 182.5 pounds December 25th, and today I weigh 167.7. My BMI back on the 25th was 33.5. It is now, where did I write that? 30.7. My body fat mass, which is the total weight of the fat in my body, today came in at 88.6 pounds. Oh, no, wait, 73.4 pounds. And back on the 25th, it was 83.1 pounds. Subcutaneous fat, which is that fat that's just under your skin. You know, it's the flabby arms, the belly pooching, the butt, the thighs. Subcutaneous fat number today came in at 37.9% of my body. And back on the 25th of December, it was 39.4%. So we're seeing slow declines of these, so great. My visceral fat, which is that fat around the organs, that number, I'm not sure how they come to that, but I just know that number takes a long time to move. But what's exciting is that on the 25th of December, it was 12. And as of today, it's 11. And it has been at 11 for a little while. I have a couple numbers for muscle because that's something that I'm really keeping an eye on. I have not started my weightlifting yet because I'm still adjusting to this new dose, and I have just about 3 days where I feel like my energy level's coming back up because I'm able to eat better. So I have yet to integrate that into my program, but it will happen. So my body, wait a minute, my muscle mass, hold on. I have that written down twice. Why do I have that? Oh, okay. So my muscle mass, which is the total amount of soft muscle tissue in my body, back in December of the 25th was 93.6%. And today it's 88.6. So hence why I need to get on board with lifting some weights and upping my protein, which I'm not having an issue with making sure the meal I'm eating and the food I'm consuming is high in protein, and that meal always looks great when you look at the macros. I'm hitting the markers. However, I still need to eat more. And so my day, you know, that I'm consuming the protein, all in all increases. And on the days, like I said, that I have a healthier, normal for being on one of these GLP-1s appetite, that's great. It's the struggle of making sure that I'm getting enough nutrition on the days that my appetite has been. So your skeletal muscle mass, it's the skeletal tissue that's connected to your bones. So that's the stuff that it allows you to stretch and do activities and things like that. So on December 25th, it was 52.4, and today 49.3. So everything else is going in the right direction except for the muscle, which is something that is a problem when you're on a GLP-1. You have to be really, really careful. So I need to continue to eat more so I can consume more protein, and I need to integrate exercise and weights into my life. Okay, that's where the extra pound came on. I'm looking at last week's stats. So last week I did come in and weighed on the Sunday at 168.8 pounds. And so today I'm at 167.5. So no, 167.7. So about almost a pound lost this week. Hence why it now says I have a total weight loss of 13.4 pounds. So I have been keeping up to date on what is going on in the courts regarding the GLP-1 fight, specifically with Eli Lilly. They are the makers of ZEPBOUND and Mounjaro. So first of all, I didn't write this number down, but they made billions of dollars this last quarter in revenue, in the positive, but they're greedy, as all pharmaceutical companies are, and they want even more. So they have been fighting tooth and nail to get compounding pharmacies like Remedy Meds to stop making these compounded versions, which by law they are allowed to do as long as that medication is on the FDA shortage list for drugs, which it was. Well, they have been fighting in court about this, and this isn't the first time. The first time they went in saying, oh yeah, we can keep up. They said, okay, fine. They took it off the drug shortage list, but it wasn't long, and realized that, no, you guys still are struggling with this. So it went back on. So it didn't affect the compounding pharmacies at all. Well, this time they are saying, nope, we have got it under control. And it sounds like they have proven that they do. There is still serious doubt as to whether they will perform like they're saying they will when it comes to fulfilling the needs of people on this medication. They have managed to get a ruling saying, okay, we're going to take it off. So they have taken it off for a second time off of the drug shortage list. They have given days, a specific date, giving 60 days for certain criteria. I just know that I focused on what my criteria would be and the type, of pharmacy and the whole program that I'm on. And so that one is up in March. So that deadline, and there's a specific day. I'll put it up here because I don't remember what it is. March something of 2025. Then compounding pharmacies can no longer disperse these compounded versions of tirzepatide. So they're giving time for doctors to transition or to allow their patients to know this so they can decide what they want to do. So yes, I have thought about what it is I'm going to be doing. Remedy Meds has not said anything, which I'm really curious as to what they plan on doing, because I'm just really curious when they're going to send out a little yoo-hoo. We're not going to be able to send you any more tirzepatide. Now, semaglutide is still on the drug shortage list. However, this ruling, they're expecting the other pharmacy companies to follow suit. It just depends on whether, Wegovy, which would be your semaglutide, Ozempic, that is a different brand, a different drug pharmaceutical corporation that makes those. So whether they can keep up with their demand we don't know. But for now, it is still going on. So the question is, would I then, which I'm assuming Remedy Meds, that's where they're going to go, would I then switch to semaglutide? That would be a plan B for me, because honestly, I feel like I'm doing so much better on Tirzepatide. I didn't have side effects with either one. I just feel like, well, that isn't completely true because I had a couple really bad experiences with a sugar dive. Like my sugar just crashed and I felt so bad. I don't seem to have that issue. On semaglutide, I had to eat every couple hours no matter what, or my blood sugar would take a dive and I would get sick. I don't have to do that on tirzepatide. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure. But because it's stronger, as for the appetite control, and it's stronger on dealing with the brain sort of mental battles than semaglutide for me. But I don't know. I go so long without eating that I realize, after it's been hours, most of the day, then yeah, I'll start feeling a little like run down and just like, nothing though, like I did on semaglutide if I went longer than a couple hours. That would be a side effect, I suppose, because I'm not diabetic. So, but the other thing that tirzepatide I feel does much better for me is it does, they both had great appetite suppression, but I feel like tirzepatide just works so well with my mental struggles when it comes to the cravings, the food noise, the food chatter, all of that mental stuff, that unhealthy relationship that I have with the food, sort of that self-soothing quality that I relate to food. I just feel like it deals just sort of that one level up for me. Eli Lilly realizes they're going to have to do something about the cost because there are millions of people that are doing what I'm doing. They're going through a Remedy Meds kind of platform, but they realize that there are millions of people that are doing this. And that's, of course, where they want to take that away and bring it toward them because that's lots of money for them, right? But these people are like me. They can't afford the $1,000 plus, what is it, $1,200, $1,500, $1,800 a month if you're doing the pins, the ZEPBOUND brand pins. No, there's just no way that can happen. So what they've decided to do is they have made, through their own pharmacy, they have made a compounded tirzepatide compounded version of their own drug. But the catch is they've only done it for the 2.5 intro dose and the 5.0. After that, you're going to have to go to the pins. And if you're paying out of pocket, which is the people that are doing the, the compounded versions, then you are going to have to figure out what you're going to do. There are rumblings, and they have talked about offering subsequent, additional doses in the compounded vials that you have to draw and inject. However, what they're doing, and many other platforms do as well, however, Remedy Meds does not do this, is when you go up a dose, they increase the price. And that is what has happened with Eli Lilly. They're compounded little vials. If you are on the 2.5, that's going to be $3.99 a month, which is what I'm paying for currently my 5 and my 2.5. Remedy Meds doesn't increase your cost as you go up in dose. Some do, but Remedy Meds does not. However, Eli Lilly does. So the next dose at 5.0 is, I believe it's like $549 or something like that. It's like $150 more than the 2.5. Okay, so that, I am going to have to really sit down because the $3.99 is already, I have that working, but it is tough. And I am seeing my revenue rise through my YouTube channel, which I'm so grateful for. But we'll see where I am, as this March deadline approaches. And that would be my saving grace and being able to afford that 5 dose, right? The 5.0 milliliter dose. But once I am no longer there, and just like I had to increase to this dose because the 2.5 was no longer doing its thing, I think the next one up is like 7.5 milliliters. I don't remember. I could have that totally wrong. I just know they tap out at around 12.4, 12.5. That's the highest dose you can go. So, I'm never going to get ahead because that dose is most likely going to be more than even the 549. So people are just, you're trying, Eli Lilly, not for the right reasons, but you're doing something. But it is going to have to be even better than that if you want that millions of people to be able to afford your medication. Because at that point, I will go to semaglutide. And if they are off the drug shortage list by then, I don't know. Maybe I will just continue to do the 5 as more of a maintenance thing. It'll be in my system, and we'll see how I feel months down the way on the 5. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it's one of those things, I just cross that bridge when I get to it. So really, to sum that all up, I am very aware as to what is going on. I was very aware of that when I started it, and I knew eventually this was going to have to be thought about and, sort of that, once again, cross that bridge when it gets here. So it's getting closer, and I will figure it out. Which brings me to the other common question, which is, Jill, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when you actually meet your goal weight? What are you going to do then? You go off, and how's that work? No, no, this is something that really is a lifelong thing. Now, some of you may be going, oh my God, but honestly, it doesn't bother me. A lot of people only do an injection once a month. It's very individual. It's something you have to talk over with your doctor, maybe a little bit of an experimental phase, no doubt, as to a good maintenance dose that allows you to maintain those calories, to maintain your weight without continually losing it or slowly gaining it. So there's a little give and take, and that probably can also vary. So it may vary, and it may need to be adjusted several times, depending on lots of different things, stress levels, stuff like that. So that's where you really want to work closely with your doctor. So yeah, I know I'm going to have to be on something at some dose, once I get to my goal weight, which I honestly don't know what that is. I have a general, because when you do these apps, you need to put in a goal weight. You have to. So I just plugged in something, but I don't know, honestly, what my goal weight is going to be. I just want to see how I feel. I don't know. It could be as much as 130 or as little as 115. I don't know. I'm just going to kind of play it by ear. I know I'm only 5'2", and I am 59. So it's hard for me to imagine what I'm going to look like when I'm in my 120s and teens, because I haven't seen that number since, good Lord. I haven't seen the 120s specifically since probably my youngest, who is now 26, when he was maybe 3, 4. So that's how many years it's been. I don't know. My body was much different metabolically, muscle tone wise back then than it's going to look like with that same number, whatever that was now. So I don't know. I don't know what my goal weight truly is going to be. And I think it's good that I don't necessarily put a number on that, because I am a definite, I will focus on that, and no matter what I look like, I'm going to try to get down there. So right now I plugged in 118. But that's because I had to put something. but I'll see, and I may get down and see how I feel. And it's like, no, I do not feel good here. And then I'll, kind of play with it and see where I'm at. The other question that I get a lot is why not, and then it just varies. Why not do just keto? Why not do a carnivore? Oh my God, I've lost all this weight on this. I feel so great. Hey, I've been doing paleo for all these years. You should do that. I don't understand why you are going to a medication. You just want the easy way out. Well, I, first of all, don't understand all the passion that I do get from some people regarding that last little bit there, because you've chosen your point of view and you're not going to ever use it. So why just sort of like bleh, throw all of that up in the comment and then judge beyond that. I don't get that. Anyway, I have, and many of you that have been with me from years know that I did lose around 50 pounds doing keto, and I really did great on keto. However, I slowly went up and then maintained for a little while. Probably in the 140s was where I stayed the longest, and did fine there. However, there were other things that were sort of like rocks in my road. Stress, anxiety, dealing with that through medication. The medication sort of side railed my brain chemistry to almost fight against myself when it comes to cravings, night binging, and stuff like that. So there was just like a whole host of things that sort of gently nudged me off the track, and then pretty soon it's like the track's nowhere to be seen. No, I could talk on and on about keto, on how great it is. I eventually see myself as my life and body regulates on a GLP-1 to really go that route, because it's very much almost second nature for me. So I can see myself doing that. It just makes so much sense to use the energy from your fat rather than carbohydrate energy. And I really ran well on that, but we'll see, because part of the success I had doing keto was that I didn't have any cravings at all, because I had eliminated so much that I just know it just was out of me. It's like, if you want to get off sugar, you have to stop eating sugar. And you have to really be diligent about checking labels and making sure that's not in there, because sugar is like really powerful. So then though, when I started craving stuff that normally I don't, and then I didn't, I started craving stuff that I hadn't in years. That made it really hard. And it was so overpowering, because the brain is so powerful. And that came from really going on an antidepressant. So that may be something that I will be constantly battling, and then it would make it very difficult to restrict myself that much. I would rather not restrict myself so much and be in sort of this better sort of maintenance way of life that's a little more balanced. And that will work for me with the assistance of a GLP-1, because that helps for me, at least tirzepatide really helps balance that out when it comes to that chemical response in the brain with cravings and sugar and wanting carbs and all of that stuff. So I know there are people who have had terrible experiences with GLP-1, and it is definitely something to think long and hard about, weigh out your pros and cons. It's individual depending on who you are, what type of history and health you have. It is nothing to take lightly. Any sort of pharmaceutical that you swallow, take, inject, whatever, it has to come down to your personal list of pros and cons. And that is something you go over with your doctor, your health history, all of that. So yeah, the carnivore thing, I did carnivore for a little bit. And it was way too restricting. I just there's no way I could live there. I like my fruit, and I like to have a little more variety in my life. So while I never had lost weight so fast from a time when I couldn't lose weight to save my life, even 3 years into keto, my body just stalled. It may be a great tool to sort of jumpstart things, but honestly, once I went back, then whatever I lost came back. So no, that just, it's like you have to answer that sustainable question as well when you're looking at these different ways. And, there are plenty of people who live and do really great doing carnivore, and that's great. Paleo is something that I started first, and I went through a doctor who turned me on to that. And she is an amazing doctor. She is an MD, but her entire sort of practice was centered around the gut and how that affects everything. And so if you came to her, she's going to put you on more of a paleo way of life, which is cutting out grains and sugar and all of that. Now, paleo is very different than keto. And the reason why I had more success on keto is because paleo really was a little too loosey-goosey when it comes to the carbs for me. And I am very carb intolerant, which to me states the fact that I am insulin resistant. And it just, I couldn't get past losing maybe 10 or 15 pounds, and that was it on paleo. My other markers were looking great. It really helped with the inflammation in my body. But as for actual weight loss, I was struggling, and it was starting to get very frustrating because, I wanted to get thinner and get rid of some of that body fat and get healthier when it comes to those markers. So paleo is a great maintenance, live your life there. My daughter pretty much, I think, still does mostly that paleo way of living, But yeah, I found that it just allowed a little too much, even though it's very clean eating. And if you're getting sugar, it's not from the bad stuff. It's probably from, you could do stevia, which I'll do stevia. Some honey, or, there are other sorts of fruit that you could add into your baking or whatever. And that's the other thing. Like, you could do coconut flour, you could do almond flour and make little treats for yourself and stuff. But again, almonds, now that's a nut flour. Oh, I can't do almond flour, I found. Again, I don't know, the inflammation. Peeling the almonds helps, but because that's usually where all the inflammation comes from, is the peel of the almond. Anyway, we're going off track here. So I think it's hard to understand why people may choose to do a GLP-1. There are many biological things that go on in our bodies that will help us to regulate our eating. And there are very real reasons why that can be all messed up. And yes, there are things you can do to help your body get those red flags, but there are actual reasons why they're not even working in your body. And that's where a GLP-1 helps people. That alone is one of the reasons why it works very well, because it's allowing you and your body to work again. When it comes to where other people seem to get that in their bodies, you're not. So yeah, there's therapy and all that stuff that maybe you can help with a lot of this relationship tug of war going on with food that we all can have related to stress, or like with me, it's a very self-soothing kind of thing, that kind of thing. Yeah, therapy probably really would be, a really great, just so you can recognize what's causing that. But there are other physiological, biological factors that no amount of therapy is going to fix. It is a huge problem right now with GLP-1s, is people will say, why don't you try to lose your weight naturally? Like I said, there are actual biological doors that are just shut, that aren't opening because they biologically are damaged. Okay, so that is just a fact. So GLP-1s help open those doors and close others that need to be closed. That no amount of therapy, no amount of stick-to-itiveness is going to fix. I look at it, and I've said this before, I look at it this way. Shutting off that food noise, shutting off that, even beyond depressing my appetite or suppressing my appetite, but the food noise stuff and all of that, when that's not back there, because my brain doesn't shut off anyway, which is a problem with a lot of things, but that's one of the things. So if that can just quiet, then it allows me to make good choices. It allows me to do the things that I have control of doing now, and not just making all the bad choices. So it's not just that I'm doing the shot and relying on this to do the work for me. That's not how GLP-1s work. And I feel like there is a big sort of misunderstanding when it comes to that. GLP-1s don't burn fat for you. They don't do anything to help sort of like melt the fat away. You still have to make good choices or you will get sick, for one thing, but and that helps you make good choices. That's true. But you have to do the work. You still got to exercise. Are you going to lose that muscle like we've seen with my numbers? You still have to make good choices. If you have too many carbs, probably aren't going to drop much that time, that week or month or whatever. So it's not magically burning the fat. Okay. It's helping you to make better choices, helping you realize I'm full, and it allows you then to proceed in your health journey in a much healthier way, both psychologically, mentally, and all the physical things that you need to do. As for things I need to work on, water, always water. I need to hydrate. I need to just continue to drink the water as much as I can because I struggle. I'm still struggling, really struggled. I think more than ever this week with that. I want to know how you're doing. I always want to know how you're doing. Share that. I always read them. So I'll see you guys regarding these updates probably in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.